Me? The air in my father's office was thick with the scent of cigar smoke and old money, but his words cut sharper than any blade. "This firm is your brother's to run, Emily," he said, leaning back in his leather chair, his voice as final as a judge's gavel. My fists clenched, nails biting into my palms as I stood across from his imposing mahogany desk. "My name's Emily Harper. I'm 27, a Yale-educated lawyer, and the daughter of James Harper, head of Harper and Partners, one of Atlanta's most prestigious law firms. I'd spent my life proving I belonged in his world, acing exams, winning debates, graduating with honors, all to claim my place beside him. But in that moment, staring into his unyielding eyes, I realized he'd never see me as anything but a daughter meant to marry well. He was handing his legacy to my brother, Lucas, a reckless charmer who'd barely passed his bar exam. I wasn't just fighting for a job, I was fighting for my worth, and I was about to turn his world upside down. "You can't be serious, Dad," I said, my voice trembling but sharp. "You'd rather give everything to Lucas, who doesn't even care, than let me prove myself? Because I'm a woman?" He set his cigar in the ashtray, exhaling slowly, like I was a child throwing a tantrum. "It's not up for discussion, Emily. Lucas is my son. This is his birthright. You've got a fine education and you'll make a wonderful wife someday. This firm isn't your place." The words stung, but it was his calm dismissal that burned. I stepped closer, my heels clicking on the polished floor. "Lucas is reckless. He flunked half his classes and has no clue how to run a firm. You know I've worked harder than anyone, harder than him. I've earned this," he sighed, rubbing his temple. "You're being dramatic. Lucas will learn. I'm protecting you. From the stress of this business, you have other paths." A bitter laugh escaped me. "Protecting me? You're holding me back because you're too stubborn to see what I can do." His eyes hardened. "That's enough, Emily. We're done here." I stormed out, the echo of my footsteps swallowed by the sprawling halls of our family estate. My mother, Clara, was in the sitting room, arranging roses in a crystal vase. She looked up, her face soft but weary. "Emily, what's wrong?" she asked, her voice gentle. I stopped, my chest tight. "He won't let me work at the firm. He's giving it all to Lucas and expects me to just accept it." She sighed, her hands pausing over the flowers. "Your father has his ways. Maybe it's best not to fight him. He thinks he's doing right by you." I stared at her, stunned. "Right by me? He's throwing away everything I've worked for because I'm not a son. How can you defend that?" She looked away, her silence a confirmation of her lifelong habit of deference. "I just don't want you hurt, Emily," she said softly. "Sometimes it's easier to let things be." Her words settled like a weight. I was alone in this fight. That night, I lay in bed, the ceiling a blank canvas for my racing thoughts. I'd sacrificed everything for the Harper name, late nights studying case law, skipping parties to prep for debates, pushing myself to be the best, all for nothing if my father's vision held. He saw me as a prop in someone else's story, not the leader I knew I could be. The thought of marrying into another powerful family as he expected made my skin crawl. By morning, my decision was clear. I was packing my suitcase when my mother appeared at my door, her face pale. "Emily, what are you doing?" she asked, her voice trembling. My father loomed behind her, his expression dark. "What's this nonsense?" he demanded. Lucas sauntered in, still in his pajamas, smirking. "Off on a getaway, sis." I snapped the suitcase shut and faced them. "I'm leaving," I said, my voice steady. "Since I'm not wanted at the firm or in your plans, I'm going to find a place where I'm valued." My mother gasped, clutching her necklace. "Emily, don't do this. We can talk it out." I shook my head. "There's nothing to talk about. You've made your choice clear." My father stepped forward, his tone icy. "This is your home. Where do you think you're going? To prove some point?" "Yes," I said, meeting his gaze. "To prove I'm worth more than being sidelined for someone who's done nothing to earn it." Lucas chuckled, leaning against the doorframe. "You're blowing this out of proportion, Em. Throwing a fit because Dad's not handing you the firm on a platter? His smugness pushed me over the edge. This isn't a fit, Lucas. It's me taking my life back, something you'd know nothing about since everything's been handed to you. My father raised a hand, silencing us. Enough. Emily, you're not leaving. You belong here. I grabbed my suitcase. No, Dad, I belong where I'm respected. That's not here. I walked past them, my mother trailing me to the stairs, her voice breaking. Please, Emily, we're a family. I paused, looking at her, the woman who'd spent her life smoothing over my father's decisions. I love you, Mom, but I can't keep hoping things will change. They won't. My father watched from above, silent, his face unreadable. Lucas lounged, unbothered, as if my departure was a minor inconvenience. At the door, I turned back. When you're ready to see me as more than a daughter to marry off, you know where I'll be. The door closed behind me, the morning air sharp against my skin. For the first time, I felt free. Within days, I landed an interview at Carter and Wells, one of Atlanta's top law firms. They didn't care about my last name. They wanted my skills, my Yale degree, my fire. I walked into their sleek office as Emily Harper, lawyer, not James Harper's daughter. By the end of the week, they offered me a position. The work was intense, complex. Cases, long hours, but I thrived. My boss, Michael Carter, a no-nonsense attorney with a knack for spotting talent, took me under his wing. You've got grit, Emily, he said after my first case. Keep it up, and you'll go far. For the first time, I felt seen for what I could do, not who I was born to. The nights were harder. Alone in my new apartment, the silence brought doubts. I missed my mother's quiet warmth, even if she never stood up for me. I missed the chaos Lucas brought, infuriating as he was. Most of all, I missed the father who'd once taught me to argue, who'd beamed when I won my first debate. Had he ever believed in me? The question gnawed, but I pushed it aside, pouring myself into work. Each case I won, each client I impressed, built a new foundation, one I'd earned. Months passed, and I became a rising star at Carter and Wells. Michael assigned me tougher cases, praising my instincts. Colleagues sought my input, and clients trusted my judgment. I was no longer living in my father's shadow. I was casting my own. But the personal growth was what surprised me most. I made choices without second-guessing how they'd look to my family. I bought furniture I liked, not what Mom would approve. I joined a running group, not to network, but because I loved the burn in my legs. Every step was a declaration. This was my life. One afternoon, Michael called me into his office, his expression serious but warm. Emily, I've got a case for you, he said, leaning back in his chair. It's big, messy, and it'll put you in the spotlight. I leaned forward, intrigued. What's the case? He paused, studying me. We're representing a client suing Harper and Partners for negligence in a major contract dispute. It's high profile and it's personal for you. My stomach dropped. You want me to take on my father's firm? I asked, my voice steady but my mind racing. He nodded. You know how they operate. You're our best shot. This could define your career, Emily, but I know it's a lot to ask. I sat back, the weight of it sinking in. Going up against my father meant facing him, Lucas, and the legacy I'd once craved. It meant proving I was better than they thought, but at the cost of any hope of reconciliation. I need to think about it, I said, my voice quieter. Michael nodded. Take until tomorrow. I trust you'll make the right call. That night, I couldn't sleep. The case was a chance to show my father what he'd dismissed, to prove I was the lawyer he'd refused to see. But it also meant burning, the last bridge to my family. I thought of his cold words, Lucas's smugness, my mother's silence. I thought of the girl who'd left, suitcase in hand, determined to be more. By morning, I knew my answer. I walked into Michael's office, my resolve firm. I'll do it, I said. He grinned. I knew you would. Let's get to work. The weeks leading up to the trial were a blur of preparation. I studied Harper and Partners' playbook, anticipating their moves. My client, a tech firm burned by a botched contract, trusted me completely. The courtroom loomed, a battleground where I'd face my past head-on. The first day of the trial was electric with tension. I entered the courtroom, my briefcase heavy, my heels steady. My client walked beside me, confident. Then I saw them, my father and Lucas at the defense table. Their eyes locked on me, shock rippling across their faces. My father's jaw tightened, Lucas's smirk faltered, replaced by unease. I set my briefcase down, meeting their gazes without flinching. I wasn't their daughter or sister here. I was Emily Harper, attorney, and I was ready. The proceedings began, and I was in my element. Every argument, every piece of evidence was delivered with precision. I kept my tone calm, my focus razor sharp. Lucas, representing Harper and Partners, fumbled from the start. His arguments were sloppy, his facts shaky. I countered each misstep with clarity, citing case law and contracts like a conductor leading an orchestra. My father sat silent, his expression unreadable, but I felt his eyes on me. It didn't matter. I wasn't here for his approval. By the third session, Lucas was unraveling. His inexperience was glaring, his responses frantic. My father tried to step in, but even he couldn't salvage the mess. My preparation was airtight, my client's case ironclad. The courtroom buzzed, with the realization I was winning. On the fifth day, Harper and Partners proposed a settlement. I saw the defeat in my father's eyes as their counsel approached mine. After tense negotiations, we agreed to terms heavily favoring my client. As the papers were signed, I caught my father's glance, regretful, maybe proud. Lucas stared at the table, avoiding me entirely. I expected them to linger, to acknowledge me, even with a nod. Instead, they gathered their things and left without a word. The silence hurt more than I'd anticipated. I'd won, but their absence felt like a final rejection. I shook it off, focusing on my client's gratitude, the judge's praise. That evening, Carter and Wells threw a small celebration. Michael raised a glass. To Emily, who showed them how it's done. My colleagues cheered, and for the first time that day, I smiled. This was my victory, earned on my terms. Later, alone in my apartment, I sat by the window, a glass of Merlot in hand. The Atlanta skyline glittered, but my thoughts were on them. I'd expected anger, maybe defiance, but their silence was heavier. Had I finally shown them who I was, or had I only deepened the rift? The questions lingered, unanswered, as I sipped my wine, wondering if family could ever be more than a name. The next morning, Michael met me at the office door, his expression cautious. "Emily, your father's here. He's in your office." My heart skipped. "My father?" He nodded. "Take your time." I walked to my office, nerves buzzing. There he was, James Harper, sitting across from my desk, his hands clasped, his face lined with something like regret. "Emily," he said, his voice softer than I'd ever heard. I closed the door. "Dad, why are you here?" He stood, smoothing his jacket. I needed to talk, to say what I should have said before. I set my bag down, folding my arms. "I'm listening." He looked out the window, then back at me. "You were incredible in that courtroom. I've seen the best lawyers in this city, and you outshone them all. Prepared, fierce, unstoppable. I was wrong about you, Emily. I thought I was protecting you, pushing Lucas to lead. But you're the one who's ready." His words hit hard, but I stayed steady. "Why now, after everything?" He met my gaze, his eyes honest. "Because I saw what you're capable of. I was blind, stuck in old ideas about legacy. Lucas isn't ready, maybe never will be, but you could lead Harper and Partners. I want you to come back, take your place. The firm needs you." I swallowed, the offer everything I'd once wanted. "And Lucas?" His face tightened. "He'll stay, in a role that fits him. This is about you, Emily. You've earned it." I took a breath. the weight of his words settling. I need time to think. A lot's happened, and I can't just jump back in. He nodded, understanding. Take what you need. I just had to say it. He moved to leave, then paused. Emily, I've never said this enough, but I'm proud of you. You're better than I ever was. His voice cracked, and he gave a small smile before walking out. I sat at my desk, his words echoing. Better than I ever was. I'd fought for that, for him to see me, but now it was about more. I was proud of myself, for leaving, for thriving, for proving my worth. Going back to Harper and Partners meant reclaiming my legacy, but it also meant facing old wounds, working with Lucas, navigating a firm that had once rejected me. Staying at Carter & Wells was safe, fulfilling, but it wasn't the dream I'd carried since childhood. That night, I lay awake, the choice looming. Harper & Partners was my birthright too, a chance to shape it my way. But could I trust my father's change of heart? Could I rebuild what we'd lost? The answers weren't clear, but one thing was, I wasn't the girl who'd left anymore. I was Emily Harper, and whatever I chose, it would be on my terms. The fight for my place had begun with a slammed door. Now it was about deciding where that place truly was.